let's talk a little bit about the new campaign chapters.
Yep.
Can your mortal minds fathom how long I have waited? Every event set into motion, every pawn put into play.
You're so cringe, J-Lore. Come on, man.
Yeah.
If we felt any of this properly, if we felt any of these quotes, like the weight of them, we just don't have because he's shown up. He showed up a year ago. He showed up a year ago. We've seen him a handful of times. We don't really completely understand him yet. We logically understand him, but we got the cliff notes of his motivation as opposed to his actual motivation.
Yep.
Especially from his viewpoint. And I think this is one of the things they really, really just seem to not understand with villains a lot of the time. At least a decent number of them is just, you can't get the villain's motivation from other perspectives solely. You need to get it from their perspective in order to actually understand them. And that's what'll attach you to them, as opposed to, well, why is he mad? I don't know. I guess he dropped his ice cream. That's why he's a villain now.
Yeah, I don't know whose idea Zovaal was, but it was such a mistake. I actually think narratively, Zovaal may have been the single largest mistake they have ever made.
Yeah.
I don't know a single person who thinks Zovaal's cool.
Which is, to be fair to them, isn't necessarily a failure of the idea, but is a failure of the execution. Because there is a world where they could have done this right. They would have been threading 100 needles.
Yeah.
And they just realistically couldn't have.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's Zovaal, can you even fathom how long I've waited? Again, this is talking about how, Zovaal really, this shit's going on since the beginning of time, right? Which means there's more than enough time for him to be involved in Sargeras, which, by the way, is confirmed.
Yeah.
It is confirmed so hard, it is sort of painful. Every event set into motion, every pawn put into play. Speaking of, let's talk about Sargeras and some other things.
Argus.
So, we've got the ritual to transform, basically, we're going to make the vessel into a new arbiter by putting Pelagos in it. Because the whole point is that because Pelagos is not really worthy or fitting for the Kyrian, he'd make a great arbiter.
Yep.
So I suppose maybe the philosophical difference here is that now the arbiter is like, a guy with thoughts instead of a mindless robot.
Yeah,
so there's maybe more of an emotionally intelligent dimension to the big sorting hat of the Shadowlands.
Certainly interesting.
That's it. Yep.
It's
gotta be honest, I don't give a fuck. I don't care about any of this lore. It's so boring. And Pelagos, the narrative design of this, by the way, is so incompetent. You've literally designed it so that this is only a payoff for a quarter of your audience.
And not even...
Come on.
Well, okay, so...
I've seen barely any of Pelagos, and it seems like Pelagos and Clea are, the only soulbinds they really dig into, because certainly as a Night Fae, for why I play, I'm like, man, who are these? What's going on? Just underwritten, not enough.
Yeah, I mean...
But anyway, Pelagos is... Clap, clap, clap.
Yeah, well done, Pelagos. Good job. So... Here's, I guess, from the perspective of someone who does understand, not understand Pelagos' character, but saw what they were doing, because I played the Kyrian stuff and spent more time with Pelagos. I don't really see the logic of this. I don't know what the point is as a story. I can understand this is a timeline of events. I can understand who's going to be the new arbiter. Fuck, we haven't thought this through. Shit, which they clearly have, but you're like, fuck, what do we do? Let me think. Wouldn't be any of the Night Fae, because who gives a fuck? It wouldn't be any of the Venthyr, because they're sort of bad, but not bad. They wouldn't make sense. Maldraxxus, no, they would just pick the strongest people and throw everyone else away. I guess the Kyrians sort of do that job, but they don't fully do the job. Even though they do the job, they decide who gets to the Shadowlands, but not sorting hat part, which is interesting. They could just do the whole job. Pelagos, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. That's how they decided internally, as opposed to we have a solid foundation for the, what are you trying to tell us with your story? What's the point of Pelagos and the personal, the personal suffering that they went through during their life and afterlife, the lessons they learned in Bastion. I nearly forgot the name of the place for a second. It's better called Kyrian Land. What's the point of Pelagos becoming the Arbiter? Are we supposed to feel something? Or are we supposed to go, all right, okay, this is, I guess, happening now?
You're supposed to look and think about all the things you should think about the character based on how the character's portrayed and basically feel the big things and clap. Pelagos is like one of the only characters they tried to, give a little bit more to, and, fair enough, fair play.
Yeah.
But, he was pretty boring in one note for most of when I saw him. I know it's definitely not the case for the Kyrians, who actually get to see all of his story. But I think the thing here is it's like King Bran Stark, which that'll mean nothing to you.
Absolutely.
But to the Game of Thrones people, it's like that ending could have been got to in a way that would be very satisfying.
Yeah.
The problem is you just went too fast. So there's a way to get Arbiter Pelagos. Like, that's a fine place for this story to go. It's just, should have been a bit more time, etc., etc., etc. They evidently don't have ample room to tell the story that they want to tell because, compare the lines of dialogue in discrete chunk of World of Warcraft storytelling to FF14. Yeah. And it's this weird thing where, someone at Blizzard evidently wants to tell a story that's really good, like in FF14.
Yeah.
But it's like they have that goal and they are given no time at all to tell it.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting point that Vardark says. Why don't they do some kind of Arbiter Council instead of a one-off? And that's the thing I said whenever we knew we were getting a new Arbiter. Yes. I floated the idea of it would make more sense for the Kyrian to form a council to do this with oversight from the Eternal Ones every now and again. Because the lessons we learned is that the Arbiter doesn't do a good enough job because... No, we didn't learn that lesson. Never mind. The robot was doing the job perfectly until Jailer's plans threw in, so we should have another robot because the robot did it fine.
The robot did it fine, ? Reason I say this is because the Shadow... this whole story pretty much, I don't mean hinges, but one thing I think we can assume is that the Jailer is right, but he's just an asshole and he's wrong. So there's something unfair and bullshit about the whole setup and system is almost definitely true, as evidenced by Elune.
Very slightly evidenced by Elune, not evidenced by Elune. As vaguely hinted at.
Was maybe a wee bit of a rebel. Zovaal was a bit of a rebel. Something evidently pissed him off. And whatever there must have been an echo of truth in what Zovaal said to Sylvanas, even though she was already a bit compromised and hard done by, of course. So there's some unfair shit going on. And the Arbiter was just this uncaring, unfeeling, sorting hat that was, just like a part of this overall kind of shitty system that was set up by the first ones who maybe created all this stuff but didn't really think about the amount of anguish and suffering that would spring forth from their system or something. So therefore it's all unfair. And perhaps if the Arbiter is a bit smart, it'll be better.
Except the Arbiter being smart, that implies a robot with an oversight. That implies someone watching the Arbiter do its job and then going, hang on, no. Like retraining an AI model. Where it's like, oh no, you've got that wrong. We'll need to retrain you, as opposed to complete emotional involvement and everything. Because Pelagos is not a character that would do a good job as the Arbiter. Because it was only until very recently did they grow out of being terribly afraid of things. So, Pelagos very much is not a character I would trust in that role. I would still barely trust Pelagos to fight alongside. Obviously that's one of the points is Pelagos isn't a fighter, so they do this instead. But they're not a great judge of character, generally speaking, or there's no reason to believe they are. And we have no reason to believe the first one system is flawed outside of the perspective of someone that we haven't actually spoken to. Outside of them going, do you know how long I've waited for this moment? Blah, blah, blah. Your little tiny minds are too small. My plans have been going forever. You're all pawns in my fucking 8D chess. And that's it. We don't know why the first one system's flawed. So us getting a new Arbiter is what was wrong with the old one? Outside of it being broke.
Yeah.
But
at this age, it may as well be Zovaal being like, I wish they 3D printed me with a bigger dick and I don't feel good. It may as well be that. Who the hell knows?
That would That would be that. That would actually. That would track. Logically speaking, completely tracks.
I fixed the expansion.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, what? Who knows? Again, it's that sort of thing. All those things you talked about. If there was more storytelling with Pelagos, like if Pelagos was a main character and we had more of Pelagos every single patch, and like not just a quarter, but like everyone had Pelagos and way more Pelagos. Yeah. Imagine that most of the work that went into half the soul binds, especially the ones that are just like, we'll give them some character, whatever. They're not important. Imagine if all of that just went into Pelagos and Clea.
Yeah.
And we saw their whole journey. This could actually work and be a really, really good moment. But obviously, that is not what happened.
Yeah. Sorry, I do have to laugh very briefly because Lexi just said, shift some spare nipple downstairs, calm the poor guy down.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
Zovaal.
I had something to say on that completely. That actually distracted me and I forgot.
Brain wiped.
Yeah. Brain wiped, yeah. What was it? I don't know, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, man. It's just Zovaal. Like, every time he comes up, it's it's kind of just ridicule time. He's so lame. But okay. Let's make Zovaal cool by connecting him to something in the past that was cool. So, let's move on. Let's talk about...
Wait, I remember what I was going to say. Pelagos becoming the new Arbiter has been less set up than Bolvar becoming the new Lich King. That's where we're at. And I think to a lot of people, Bolvar being the Lich King was still like, wait, what? But they at least set that up a little bit, as opposed to, who's this guy? I just found him on the street. Do you want to give him the Crown of Wills? Whatever the fuck that is. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So, Chapter 7, Crypts of the Eternal Echo of Argus, Arbiter Pelagos. To continue with it. They start the ritual, and Dreadlords interfere, summoning an Echo of Argus.
Cool.
Yeah. And we start to learn more things about all of this. This is the full Argus section, right? Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Long have we awaited this moment. The Banished One's Gambit made manifest. So, Gambit. Clearly, he is part of a gambit. A world soul twisted by death. A maul with which to crush the Arbiter. And now it shall take this vessel. Argus will be eternal. So, this whole plan was to put the essence of Argus into the sort of empty body of the new Arbiter. That was the plan. Which presumably would have been bad for us for reasons we don't understand because it just happens here. Now there's some lore here that's funky.
That there is.
A world soul twisted by death.
How?
See, previously people thought that ANR was like the life titan.
Yeah.
Because she was so associated with life. And I actually know where that is now.
Yep.
And then we assumed that Argus was the titan of death.
Yep.
In no small part because his game file was literally
the
DeathTitan.m2.
And all of his stuff looked like death magic.
Yeah. And also, the big scythe.
Yeah, that also, yeah.
Might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I said that it just made sense to me is that actually, no, Argus probably wasn't inherently tied to death. Indeed, if you think about ANR, she almost certainly has she has an interest in life, but she is purely a Titan because maybe ANR is mates with Elune, because remember that ANR hides out on a moon called Elunaria. Yeah. So there we go. Is that explained?
Well, no, because okay,
balls.
Well, this is where you get a little bit weird about it, because you could easily say that they have is a natural interest, a natural affinity, the idea of someone's second nature. So is ANR's interest in life because she's naturally more infused with life, so she is effectively a life titan? Same way Aman'Thul would be the Titan of Time or the Titan of Arcane. Same way Golganeth and Sargeras and Agrimar all had their specific things. Are they roles assigned because of competence, or are they roles assigned by nature, by birth? In the same way Argus is the Death Titan. you kind of a little bit of a weird distinction to make there. I would say Inar's probably the Life Titan in this way to make things simple.
Probably, but if he's the Death Titan, how does he get twisted by death if it's like kind of his thing?
Well, then I guess here's the point. The point I think is that he wasn't originally going to be the Death Titan, and he was forged into that by whatever the hell they were doing to him, which really feels awful because they were, he should be the Fell Titan because he was a battery to revive demons. That's what Argus was. And then at the last second, it's like, no, he's been the Death Titan all along, which completely does not track in any way unless they explain it to us later.
What if the Burning Legion was essentially Zoval's boys in the outside?
Yeah,
right?
So
the using the death magic or the death magic whatever of Argus to fuel the regeneration of the Burning Legion was basically just Zovaal regenning his troops in the outside, who of course don't really know that they're his troops in the outside. And the victory that went unnoticed is us taking out Argus.
Well, that was
but like at that stage, Argus was no longer useful to his plan because the Burning Legion had basically done its job.
I don't see how
you have to understand how intelligent Zovaal is.
I don't see how that tracks in any sort of reasonable way, but mostly because I'm sort of still stuck in the realm of how are they going to make it, how are they going to explain in a fair way that it's a Death Titan that makes sense.
Well, okay. I would say that he was a Death Titan whenever we saw him.
Yeah.
This is what I think the canon's probably going to be, actually. I think that he was a Death Titan when we saw him because of the World Soul being twisted, right, by Zovaal. I think that before that...
How did Zovaal get to touch him?
I don't know. See, well, look, World Soul twisted by death.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say that Aenar is a World Soul twisted by life. Twisted, I think, is implying that that's an action of Zovaal, an unnatural thing.
Well, not directly or otherwise. Because if it's directly, I swear to God.
Well, I think it probably is directly somehow.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious is that the Dreadlords were doing it under Sargeras' nose.
Well, there you go.
But how the fuck did they get away with that? Because a Titan should clearly understand what death is and understand it's different from Fel. That's the
drop a few wee pipettes of some blue food coloring.
They're what's it called? Homeopathy for Titans.
There, that's it.
They just put one part per million of death into Argus's Hule, and suddenly he's a Death Titan. That's the thing that makes this all feel so incongruent to me. And obviously there's ways to logically explain like it away and go, oh no, well you see in this fucking layout of the cosmology, in this 3D rotation, death is opposite to Fel, so sucking all the Fel out to regen the demons is actually what tilted his fucking etheric balance over to over to death.
The Emerald Star in 1,000 Years of War, the audiobook.
Yeah, which is green, which is not blue. There's a very big difference between green and fucking blue. So him being the Fel Titan, I would buy it at a drop of a hat, but I would really need it to be explained very clearly how it's a Death Titan, if that's integral to the plans. Because if you start to think of the logic, like people are saying, if you start to think of the logic behind how we got to Argus in the end, which obviously included Garrosh going back in time to get the alive Gul'dan, and then Illidan summoning the portal. If Argus's death was the end plan, then this is less a gambit and this is more Zovaal's a fucking butterfly and Chaos Theory did the rest of the job, because not all of this could be reasonably planned in any sense. But if they explain some parts of it and it wasn't all just incongruent, fuck it, this will make sense because we say it makes sense.
Dude, this is planned from the beginning.
Yep.
We just need to work out how did Zovaal entice Garrosh and Gul'dan.
His rivers of blood and his mountain of skulls.
Yeah. How does Zovaal do that? Probably not. But you are right.
Yeah.
The chain of events that leads to us knocking out Argus is certainly iffy. But now, the whole thing, a maul with which to crush the Arbiter.
Yeah.
Make no mistake. The thing that broke the machinery of death was Argus.
Yes.
And this was a part of Zovaal's big plan, and is essential to the entire Shadowlands thing. That means that us going to kill Argus was required for his plan to start.
Yeah.
So how are we led to kill Argus by Zovaal? Does Lothraxion have anything to do with... No, it's all Illidan. It's all Illidan taking us to Argus.
Yeah, it's Illidan taking us to Argus because that was all the Burning Legion fight, and that was Gul'dan and Illidan's fight to finish off. Because Gul'dan brought us in through what I called, he was motivated by whatever he heard from Gul'jaden, but I believe he was motivated by kind of his own ends at the end, largely speaking. Because it was Gul'dan, and then...
But it had to happen for Zoval's plan.
That's the fucking problem. The tomb of Sargeras was opened, and it was a beacon to bring the ships here, so they actually landed. The invasion finally happened just when we were perfectly positioned to stop the invasion and then counterattack, which is very much, it felt like a really scuffed game of Warcraft 3 or StarCraft, where... you go full, you just attack, move in, get wrecked, and now your base is unprotected. That's very much what it felt like. And that felt a little bit quick, but it felt all natural and fairly motivated. So
Helya?
Helya did nothing that expansion of note that was related to the main story.
Yeah.
Outside of the Sylvanas connection, which was very clearly a B thread, versus us dealing with
actually one that I think they changed. I think we'll do this as a little segment after this, because I think they changed the plan for Sylvanas in Legion. Based on a difference between their marketing materials for Legion and what actually happened. But I'm really... Right, I, on a very surface level, understand the idea that, in the same way that we accidentally carried some Void bullshit into the Emerald Nightmare raid with us, we also took Argus out, and in doing that, we're unwittingly pawns in Zoval's plan.
Yeah.
But...
there is no link that I can think of. And I've tried.
Yeah, this is really hard because their story kind of hinges on this.
Yeah.
Zovaal feeling like an active villain that we should care about hinges on his involvement in us killing Argus.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Argus was Velen.
Yeah, it was a completely different story, yeah. There is no logical connection for us. No.
Do you know?
Well,
cameras haven't told me anything, Matt.
Yeah, so I think
my phone's out of battery, so I can't read chat.
Yeah, I think chat knows very well because they are having a lot of fun saying things like Zovaal was the one that made Cthulhu mathematically impossible. Zovaal killed Mankrik's wife, and that started the whole thing off. Stuff like that. Zovaal's behind all the Chuck Norris jokes in Vanilla Barnes chat. Oh. So now this is interesting because this is what. I think if it. Dome says, I think if instead of saying the jailer planned for us to do this, it was the jailer was lucky that this happened, that would be a better route to take. Yeah, that would make them that would make Zovaal an opportunist as opposed to this grand plan or strategist. But his grand strategy and plan is complete fucking nonsense, and it does not logically track in any capacity. So opportunist makes sense
from the perspective of a mortal being.
Yeah,
but from his perspective, he could have just waited forever because he's just in the Shadowlands. But if we didn't stop Sargeras, Azeroth would be destroyed.
Yeah.
And considering Azeroth powers the thing that he's standing in front of in this patch or is tied to it somehow, that would be bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that doesn't really track. If the Burning Legion wins, he loses.
Even though he formed the Burning Legion.
Yeah, but he formed the Burning Legion to be defeated.
But
suggesting.
It was pretty hairy. We could have lost.
Yeah.
Somebody misses an interrupt. And there goes Zovaal's entire plan.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, out of the many hundreds of attempts to defeat the Burning Legion that I took, we definitely lost all but one. So, literally speaking, we definitely lost. But anyway.
So that's an interesting plan. And it is how long I've waited. Every event set into motion, every pawn put into play.
Yeah, that doesn't follow.
Now, I actually think, Matt, as well, because both of our main characters are Draenei, and I think we may have some new lore to our characters as well.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
So, Argus evidently is extremely important to Zoval's plan. Yeah. After all, Long have we awaited this moment, the banished one's gambit made manifest, a world soul twisted by death, a maul with which to crush the Arbiter. Could you say that the gambit is his entire Sargeras plan?
Yeah.
Maybe. But Argus was key to this plan, and Sargeras was sort of unwittingly doing his operations. Is it potentially the fact that Sargeras finds out about the planet of Argus and therefore kicks off the entire storyline of the Draenei because that's what works for the Jailer? Meaning that now we have another part of the lore that we can directly put Zovaal at the top of.
Yeah. The whole reason that the Draenei got involved. Fantastic.
Yeah, and that does track. Because he meets the Dreadlords before the Draenei.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the first, because...
Well, the Dreadlords are there from the beginning of time, pretty much.
Yeah, the Dreadlords are the very first step in Sargeras' turn. And then then Sargeras speaks to the Draenei leaders telepathically and promises them power, and then Kil'jaeden and Archimonde go, fucking aye, sounds alright to me, and Valen's like... Was it the Light hinted to Valen that he shouldn't join them?
And of course the Light has got business with... Yeah. The Light has motherfucking business with the Shadowlands because of the Dreadlords. Yeah. Wasn't it the Dreadlords doing their fucking that started the Void...
They fought back, yeah. Okay, so here we've got it. This is it, right? So the Dreadlords, while also taking over Argus for the by the Eridar for Sargeras and turning Kil'jaeden and Archimonde, they also got the Light to tell Valen to get out because he was key to the plan of actually winning.
Oh, wait.
So the Dreadlords are basically everywhere at all times, telling everyone what to do, and are behind literally everything for this massive fucking conceited plan to work. Otherwise, it is just random chance.
I'm going to say that we probably didn't need to know that it would be Velen who would lead us back to do the Argus thing later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's funny as fuck, but I mean, it's also an exaggerated reality for the purpose of a joke.
Yeah, which is,
But I think that the idea that this Dreadlord thing and the Light being suspicious of it, the Light telling Velen, the other two being blind, I mean, I think that's very much telling us that there is Dreadlord involvement in the entire exodus from Argus.
Yeah, which makes
Which, I mean, then does tie to the Orcs, because the Draenei meet the Orcs, so this sort of does tie the Orcs into Zovaal now.
Yeah.
Everything's part of the Chuckler's big plan.
That's what they've done.
Oh my god, it really is. It really is.
Why are you only realizing this now? They said that.
Alright, so now the lore is that Warcraft 1, Orcs and Humans, is the Orcs coming through the Dark Portal, because they are all legioned up and very excited to do some legiony business, and that is, of course, because they're trying to claim the world of Azeroth, but they're trying to claim Azeroth for... ostensibly themselves, but really the Burning Legion and everybody. Now, this in itself is kind of confusing, because at that point, how would the Jailer be like, Burning Legion, you've done your job, enough's enough. You need to keep that world soul for me, Big Sarg. Don't you be smashing it in half. Unless, perhaps, because the whole thing of Argus had already been set up, somehow he has a kill switch to the Burning Legion, but that's evidently not possible because we had to go and defeat Argus, it wasn't so well.
So if this were part of his gambit, we are inevitably part of that gambit because we're the last line of Azeroth defense. That's how it has to play out. If for this to have been his plan, every single player in the entire, not players and human player, every player in the play that is the World of Warcraft saga so far, every single one is completely deprived of agency because it's all in the service of Zovaal's big master plan.
Bar Void.
Arguably speaking, no, because you could logically say that the fact that we beat N'Zoth, and that was clearly some part of a test, implies that they were testing us as well for beating things. So they could be on the other side of the coin from Zovaal.
But the Legion...
the
Legion was wiping the place clean of Void.
Yeah, so it's a case of... the Void haven't really been too involved overall in the grand scheme of things outside of minor stuff so far, so I don't know how to loop them in, but generally speaking, everyone involved in the story of the Burning Legion has completely zero agency if they're all part of this master plan.
I think
They're all dominoes falling as opposed to actors taking actions, which
Void and
wrecks it.
So if we think about them,
Yeah.
Order was taken out by Death using the Burning Legion. The Burning Legion was used to neutralize Light and to neutralize Void.
Yeah,
Like,
I guess.
basically, the things that Death is kind of weaker to,
Yeah.
it's been trying to deal with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But well, okay, right.
so maybe maybe like the entire plan, well, not maybe, almost definitely, the entire plan wasn't conceived at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's the case he did all of these things, but the recent
Yeah.
plan that we know about, that we're involved in,
Yeah.
is like a more recent thing, therefore
Yeah.
more plausible.
So okay. So the very recent stuff of Sylvanas is like it gets plausible from there on.
Yeah.
Going any earlier, it starts to get completely fucking half baked and insane, because you have to consider whether or not he had communication with the Dreadlords at the time and was micromanaging the entire fucking cosmos. Because if he was, that's insane, and destroys every character. If the Dreadlords are doing it all, it destroys all forms of character. If the Jailer proves to be weak and lucky, and is just putting on a face, that could be slightly interesting and restore a lot of the agency. But if we look at it at face value based on what we found in data mining, which is stuff that they are happy for us to know, otherwise they would encrypt it, then we're just like, okay, sweet, it's all made up. It's all the Jailer's imagination. He's just a kid in a playground making all this story up, and none of it matters. That's generally the feeling that you tend to get. Also, if you try to think, because I get what you're kind of going for with talking about the cosmic forces and how they interact and how they intersect, and what way are these chess pieces been played against each other. None of that makes any difference in the ultimate end of it all, past 9.2, because Zovaal's gambit results in him having the keys to, ostensibly what we believe are the keys to all known reality, otherwise we wouldn't care so much, which implies that if he is successful, then he has won and there's no threat left against him, which implies that if Void exists as a problem for him to deal with, they don't after this point. So it's not like he was setting up a board to checkmate in a couple turns. This is his checkmate.
Yes.
If you get me?
Yeah.
Which is weird.
Yeah, that's this is just a crazy story of Zovaal behind everything he is. That's it.
Yeah, that's what they're lining up for.
Really. Oh, they are trying to have him ride the coattails of things.
Yep.
Very, very, very strange. This is one of the weirdest ways for a story like this to go. I can't quite fathom it.
I feel really bad because it's like taking down a story logically like this is a brutal thing to do, because obviously they're not in control of everything and how it all manifests, but just straight up are recontextualizing things that we've already done and dusted, and that's a dangerous thing to do unless you do it with the utmost care and attention, which I believe if that was done in the writer's room, it's not been translated to us whatsoever.
You don't cheapen the emotional capital of something people are deeply invested in.
Yeah.
That's the most robotic way I could have said an emotional thing.
How do I put this in terms of money? I guess it's like they if you think about it, they're trying to solve hyperinflation by taking everyone's money away.
See, I was going to do it a different way.
Yeah.
I was going to say that we've slowly, all this emotional investment is like savings, right? So we have this massive bank of savings invested into World of Warcraft. And then suddenly, because things are flagging a bit, they're like, stimulus! And our stimulus here is going to be Zovaal being connected to literally everything in the universe. And then that just like inflates the currency. And then you don't care about the thing you already have, because now it's all just like so big, cosmic, everything's connected everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Sort of like that. Woo!
Yeah.
We just need to get through this.
Yep.
And into the next expansion, and then hopefully we won't have to think about this sort of thing again.
Yeah, this is. I really hope they find a way to wrap this up. And honestly, I think turning Zovaal into a big joke who didn't plan anything is probably one of the cleanest ways out. And just kind of go, it's alright, it's fine. He was talking shit. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. That won't be satisfying, but at least everyone go, oh, thank fuck what we did mattered.
Yep.
Sweet.
I think you still have to remember, this is the team that wrote the ending of patch 8.3. That's okay. Rip off Lord of the Rings and done.
Right, well, if you want to rip off more Lord of the Rings, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go
but
ahead.
like, can you
But properly.
remember the amount of ridicule they got for the handling of N'Zoth? Like,
Yes.
Zovaal is the most epic enemy, the first like big unique creation
Yeah.
of whatever the hell brought us the ruination of one of the longest, most hyped up villains in the franchise.
Yep.
So, yes, hopefully they calm down next time and actually take the time to do it right.
Yeah. Before we continue, I will just say one small thing, which is I've been paying attention to chat, and there's one thing that, because obviously Blizzard aren't very on top of what PR is. No. They're not on top of what people think about the game or how they talk about the game. They're very much behind. They've lost that battle. The narrative is no longer in their control. The shit I'm saying about the people saying about what Zovaal has done and is very reminiscent of imagine Chuck Norris jokes with no respect. It's the idea of Zovaal is no longer even a threat in the meta narrative because everyone's just laughing at him. To be fair, people
like Steven Seagal.
Yeah, people have been laughing at him before, but very much now, you know, you've ran away with the narrative. Now you know. None of you are going to take Zovaal seriously after what chat's been saying, after what we've been saying.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems where they just have this. They have not been able to capitalize on this feeling like a villain or anything.
So it basically is as if they build up to Thanos for all of these years in the Marvel, and then in the final movie, they reveal that literally Steven Seagal has planned the whole thing and is the true villain.
Close enough, yeah.
That's kind of how that...
Yep.
Because it makes sense with how serious and cool Steven Seagal seems to think he is.
Yep.
So I think it tracks okay.
Yeah, I mean, here's some choice ones where Zovaal was a milk snatcher all along. Zovaal made this YouTube channel to talk about himself. Zovaal jacked the budget for Warcraft 3 Reforged. Zovaal's master plan is to rewrite reality such that he isn't a clown. It's, you know, Zovaal knew we were going to get Skyrim 10 re-releases. You know, there you go.
Yeah, 100%. That's the case.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
I guess for the rest of this, look, you know, Pelagos becomes the new Arbiter. Here is Arbiter Pelagos.
Yep.
There he is. Now we've got, you know, this scene, which I think has got a bit more animation than most of these do. Like, the lip sync is still nowhere near, not even approaching FF14.
Not even close.
But there's a little bit more of it, so that's good. Like, you know, what's going on is good, and I assume maybe this will be more polished up, but sometimes, you know, the animations that it's just right.
They're limited in what they can do.
Yeah, the game is not set up to allow them to do the things that FF14 does well, which I think is why sometimes it is a bit of an unfair comparison.
Yep.
Even though it can be worth making because, like, technical stuff, sure, but also it's how people experience shit. But, like, there's nicer work going on here, you know? And if, you know, more little scenes like this, hugs, it's the sort of thing. Animation just gets a million times harder whenever a character has got to touch another character.
Yeah. There's a difference between a hug and sort of phasing your chests together.
Yeah, so we got a new voice, worthy soul, pure and unburdened.
Except he's
into the robot he goes.
Yeah.
Balance restored, and I guess in a big flash of yellow. You know, Pelagos is now the boss.
Yep. I mean, yeah, this, as Blue says, I did the carrying campaign, and even I have serious doubts about Pelagos. Seriously? Pelagos? Really? Like, yeah, a soul unburdened. Didn't really communicate that very well, because Pelagos is very burdened.
Yeah.
Very burdened.
So there's the new Arbiter. That's that happening. You know how we have now here's a scene with. Look how big Pelagos is now.
Yeah, it does look like he's just wearing the Arbiter's clothes, which is a bit weird.
Yeah, so just big Pelagos, you know.
Large and
it's my friend.
Mallwalker.
Mallwalker. Here's the thing. Hello, Blizz. Hello. Here, we're going to call this Tip Friday. Here's your line of dialogue. I'm going to give you a little script at it.
Oh.
My friend.
Big fix. Mallwalker. Yeah, that's a good point. Why is it? Why?
Like, do you walk into work, see your boss, and say, senior level designer 2, my friend, nice to meet you again. Just, your line's better.
Yeah.
Because by this stage, Pelagos should say that, not just, Mallwalker! Right?
Yeah.
And like, in FF14, there are times where you will be referred to directly as the Warrior of Light in a official in an official context. Yeah. Or perhaps they'll be like, oh, well, not as powerful as the Warrior of Light, where...
Yep.
But if Alize is just going to have a wee chat with you, it's going to be more language like, it's implicit that you know each other, therefore we don't need this.
Characters there don't turn around and go, hello, first name, surname, or hello, title. They're just like, well, how's it going? And you're just like, it's you. I know your name. I don't need to say this. And they even, I suppose it's a thing, they even play with that nicely sometimes, where the Warrior of Light's like a role, like this thing you are. And then there's so many dialogue choices where you get to say kind of more like what you actually like, kind of identify your character as.
Yeah.
It's like even the opening to Endwalker does that really, really nicely, where it's like, what do you do? You're like, fuck, good question. Good question. I can't say Warrior of Light. What the fuck does that mean?
So, of course, Pelagos saying, my friend, without you, I may never have found my path. Now, I can direct the flow of souls to the afterlives they justly deserve.
How can you make that decision? Are you qualified?
Epic. Yet, one goal remains: to truly restore the balance to the Shadowlands, the Jailer must be defeated. And also, save reality. I have faith that the Mallwalker and their allies will succeed. Go in service, friends, or boast, and all the Shadowlands are counting on you.
Wait, go in service? So go in service of the purpose?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, sir, look. I know, so this is my choice, sister.
My purpose.
My purpose.
Yeah, well, what the fuck's the purpose?
The purpose is the, programmed religion of the first ones that is there to make their minions continue to do the correct bidding over time. Just codify it in this sort of...
Yeah, but it hasn't been narratively explored in any capacity. Outside of the Kyrians a little bit, but then they broke away from the purpose.
Matt, this is a story told in 3 acts, and we are drawing to its close.
The purpose wasn't explained narratively. It wasn't addressed narratively. They broke away from the purpose.
This is a story told in 3 sets of openings and endings. And now we're at the final set of openings and endings. Oh dear, look, it's screen time. It's screen time, and if they're not going to increase their narrative screen time, then I think they are just going to have to change their story to actually fit their screen time.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, look, sometimes, you can look at a... I mean, even, what some, 10 or, whatever the, 12-minute episode cartoons are able to do in storytelling. It's like, you can very clearly tell this episode of Adventure Time has got a tiny cast of characters and all of this stuff because they only have 12 minutes. So if they're going to do a good job, they only have time for a tiny amount of characters, and that's that, right? Not that that's a perfect analogy or example, but anyway, that's what's going on there. So, lore, it's Shadowlands lore. What did you expect? It's Shadowlands lore. Let's hope no lore in World of Warcraft ever again feels like Shadowlands lore. Certainly the amount of damage that this has done... the amount of damage this has actually done to the community fucking seems to really care about the lore. Like, if you go to r/Warcraft lore, this is fucking bloodbath.
They're broken.
Doran...
Yep.
Doran's movies, Noble, I think, is not the biggest fan. Just a lot of the places I go to, you go to r/WoW and it's mostly ridicule, right? Like, whoever's running this show at Blizzard has got to be able to take a look around and see how it's being received. It feels like they have no idea how any of this is received. But anyway, maybe this will be done. and then we can go back to things that we like,
Very unfortunate.
such as a world, its peoples, and their stories.